Hello, Talia. Hello.
Yes, CD. I don't think she's around.
You don't think she's around? Okay, thank you. Who is supposed to manage the class?
She is in class. Maybe a network or something. That's what I'm saying. She's supposed to manage the class or assist.
Okay, good day, everyone. Welcome to class. So as we can see, our facilitator is already in class and our turnout is very poor. So please, party chairpersons, inform your members to join into class. So since our facilitator is already in class, we are just going to give 3 more minutes for everyone to join. Please and please, as you come in, register your name and your registration number and party. Very important. So I'll introduce our facilitator by 5:03. So please and please inform your party members. Thank you.
Miriam and Talia. Good day.
Good
So
evening.
first and foremost, I don't think we should be reminding them they have classes at 5. From now, I don't think there should also be space given to when people are not going to join. Miriam, are you there?
Yes, CD.
Miriam, take a roll call of the people that are in the class now. From now, Any other attendance, we will not record. Just the
All
20,
right.
32 people that are in class for today. That's the point. Next time I'll slout. Don't worry. I won't say what I'll do next time.
Edie,
Because I
good
don't know why
evening.
you're
Oh.
begging adult. I don't know how far now. I do.
And then,
My chairwoman at the top, the incoming CJN.
oh, bro.
Fatu's first, Fatu's first AGS.
I go pursue you after 1 month
This is what your picture go dey the wall say
because
you
I'm
do
a
am.
tout.
Your picture go dey the wall say you do am now. I mean,
I feel so
that's what
governor.
counts.
I feel so
Hmm?
governor. You go pursue me
That's
after
the
one
problem
after
with
1
you.
month.
But like I said, your picture go dey the walls. March March 2031 to April 2031.
God, hey God, hi.
Great to have you again for the what? 19th time. Good. You are no soldier.
I swear. Maybe
No soldier.
I should carry out a coup and take you out.
This one that we're in the time of coup. But you know, say
Yeah.
the coup go hard though, because okay, that your guy
I have
is married.
Chalia in my cabinet. Have you Chalia? I have Chalia in my
Which Charlie?
cabinet.
You realize when you met Charlie. That's what you find out. That just is not loyal. Is it not to just check whether your people are easy to scatter now? Is to check. Amina is from Miangu. Talia is Tarok or Mangu. We'll now find out that they are different. So what we'll just do is I'll just go to maybe Charlie and now they attend cooking. They attend Equa. That's all now. If you want to divide people in plateau, it's just church.
The Tarok and Irigwe people do not have a problem. So you cannot divide
No,
us on that basis.
that's why we are
And
going to
I'm
church.
sure
It's not on
Chalia,
tribe.
That is
I'm sure
true.
It's
Chalia,
church.
Chalia, which
It's
church
church
do
we
you
are going to
attend
use.
or your mommy attend?
This is wahala go boss. This is wahala go
Ekwa or
boss.
cooking?
None of them.
You see? So
Mhm.
we are good.
So you are good.
Yes. Oh my God.
Just people are not serious. You see, but lokacin Catholic bane. Lokacin cooking thing.
Hi. Well
Okay,
done.
Amina, well done. Do what you do
Thank you.
best. We're very proud of you as usual. Looking forward to the
Oh,
class. Thank you.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
No pictures. Oh, you're not wearing beret today. No beret today.
Really? No, I'm at home.
Comrade,
So heat day.
comrade,
Yes,
comrade,
sir.
comrade. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So it's actually time for class. Thank you very much, Edie. Our facilitator is here and she has been here like 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes ago. So please and please, we don't expect to be late. So I'll be reading the bio of our facilitator. She'll be taking us on results, collation, post-election. We have Amina Miango. Amina Miango is a Nigerian trained lawyer, chartered mediator, and election expert with over a decade of experience in election administration and management. She has worked navigating diverse areas of the electoral processes, including but not limited to understanding legal frameworks, governing elections both domestically and internationally, election law guiding candidates, qualifications, election dispute resolutions mechanisms, political parties, and the complex interchange between legal status and electoral procedures. Throughout her career, Amina has worked to ensure the integrity and fairness of electoral processes, first at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, where she worked with a diverse group of electoral stakeholders to improve the electoral processes. process, sorry. She currently serves as the project lead for the election projects at the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, CJID, where she continues to develop initiatives to educate voters and enhance electoral transparency, integrity, accountability, and inclusivity. Thank you very much, everyone. We have our facilitator. We are having her for the 19th time. So I know she has taught me and her classes are always engaging. So please, if you have questions, put them in the chat box.
Don't set me up. Oh.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here for the 19th time. It's always good to be here. Electoral College has been family from the beginning. So it's always good to do this. Even when everything else is upside down, you know that this is this sheds some light on, you know, our journey as a country, shed some light on the electoral process, and really gives us hope that, well, maybe we're not wasting our time at all. So yeah, it's always good to be here. So, hi everyone. Hello, 84 of you. It's good to be here. And like Charlie said, my name is Amina Miango. I am a Nigerian from Plateau State. So without wasting time, we're going to be talking about collation of results and post-election. So before we proceed into collation of results, I want to talk a bit about elections. Yeah. Collation of results is a part of what election is, you know. But when you study political scientists and those election experts, I think sometime in the early 2000s, came to a conclusion that election is just not, you know, that one event that happens on that day where you go to vote. Instead, it's a collection of activities, you know, that happen round the cycle from one point. So if your election is 5 years and you vote today, you know, there's a cycle that takes you back another 5 years where you vote again. And in between that cycle, you have a number of different activities, you know. And how did they divide that cycle? They divided it into 3. We have the pre-election period, the electoral period, and then the post-election period. And in the pre-election period, you have things like voter and civic education. You have planning by, you know, stakeholders. You have registration of political parties. You have registration of voters. You have all those things, yeah, in the pre-electoral period. Then for the electoral period, you have things like nomination of candidates. Yeah, how political parties and what falls under these political parties primaries. You have to do primaries before you nominate candidates. And then you have to also campaign as political parties and candidates. Then you have the main election day where voting takes place, and then results and all that. And under that results, of course, we have things like collation. So collation falls within the electoral period. Now, post-election, we have you review and audit the election. You know, then you start your reforms, your legal reforms proposals and all of that. You start strategizing for the next election. Now, I'm sure as I've been talking, some of you may have pinpointed that, okay, there are some activities in one part of the cycle that have, you know, got into another, that probably spread into another part of the cycle. Like if I'm to ask now, what part of this cycle do you think we are in now? Anyone? Just post it in the chat box. I think I'll see it. What part of the cycle do you think we're in now? Anyone? Okay, awesome. So yes, we are in the pre-electoral period. But if you also notice, you see that reforms, legal reforms, are still ongoing. Yeah. Those of you that have been following the reform, the conversation about electoral reforms, will know that reforms are ongoing. So sometimes one activity, say legal reforms, could spread into the next to the pre-electoral period. Even things like strategy. Because if you're strategizing for election, you just strategize and stop. You strategize and continue until election day because you have to keep changing, and getting best practices. Yeah. So that's basically what the electoral cycle is about. Now, sorry, I'm trying to. Okay. Yeah, this is basically the explanation that I gave about the electoral cycle. Now, I'm talking about collation. Collation is part of a system that we call election results management. And it's basically how we manage results in such a way that it fulfills the demands for an effective system. And what are the demands? That collation or results management be fast, that it be transparent, and then that it be accurate. I know that a lot of times when we complain about how long it takes for results to come out in Nigeria, and that speaks to how fast it is. Yeah. And a lot of times, because of the complaints, people start to suspect that, okay, something is going on. Yeah. And then, of course, it leads to a problem of transparency, especially if INEC is not talking to us. And then we also usually have a problem with when you see how results sheets are being cancelled. Yeah. So what basically effective election results management system says is that result management should be fast, it should be transparent, and it should be accurate. And where there are manual procedures, to improve them, we could use technology. And that we should also ensure that there's security of the results and security of the infrastructure concerned, and also security of training of the personnel that will handle these results. And this becomes important when you look at the whole process of collation. And sometimes you see a result sheet and there's a lot of cancellation on it. Sometimes we ask, okay, is this thing actually that transparent? Why did they, cancel and cancel and cancel? So I just wanted to touch a bit on this, on how election result management works. Yeah, it's basically supposed to be managed in such a way that it shows that there's integrity in the process. And okay, I think we can skip election integrity and go to legal framework. Now, before we also jump into collation of results, the process itself, it's very important to understand that elections don't happen in a vacuum. Yeah. Election is a legal process as well as a political process. It is a legal process because there are laws that guide the conduct of elections, that guide the conduct, all those activities we saw under the electoral cycle. There are laws that provide for each and every one of them, whether there are laws passed by the National Assembly or laws, regulations by INEC. Yeah. So every part of the electoral cycle has laws. For example, registration of voters, it is in the Constitution and the Electoral Act. Nomination of candidate, it is in the Electoral Act. Voter education and civic education, it's a constitutional matter. Yeah. So every part of the electoral cycle has a body of laws that guides the conduct. And what do we call those body of law? We call it the election legal framework. And what are the documents that make up the election legal framework? There are quite a number of them. I'm sure if I'm to sit down, I've never sat down to say make a list, but I'm sure if I'm to sit down, add international instruments, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and then other laws, including regulations by INEC, I'm sure I'll probably come to up to 30 documents. But for the purpose of this class, I'm just going to concentrate on 3 of the documents under the electoral legal framework. Because when you look at even international conventions on civil and political rights, are basically reproduced under our Constitution. So the first document under election legal framework is the Constitution. And what is the Constitution? I'm hoping that everybody in this class has seen the Constitution, has touched the Constitution, and has read the Constitution. So I don't know if you can see, this is my own Constitution. It's always on my reading table, always. And I have one on my phone. If you don't have, please take a minute and look for it online and download. Very important. So what does the Constitution do? The Constitution is the #1 legal document in Nigeria. It is the law that fathers other laws. Let me use that word. Yeah. It is the law that provides for the validity of other laws. It is the law that provides for what Nigeria is, what the system of government is, what the citizens are, what are the obligations and rights of every citizen, what are the obligations of government, how do we hold government accountable, the extent of our rights, everything, every one of this is in the Constitution. So in relation to elections, what does the Constitution say? First of all, the Constitution provides for what INEC is. It sets up INEC. Oh, there shall be a body called the Independent National Electoral Commission, which shall have the power to do this, to do that, conduct elections, conduct referendums, register political parties, conduct voter education, blah, 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 blah. You know, all of that are in the Constitution. It is also the Constitution that sets up the state independent electoral commissions. It's the Constitution that says INEC shall have a chairman. The chairman is this years old, you know, and that INEC shall have 12 national commissioners. INEC shall have resident electoral commissioners for each state and the FCT. You know, that is the Constitution. It is also the Constitution that gives the National Assembly the powers to make laws. Yeah, it is found in the Constitution. I think chapter 4, chapter 3 or 4. I can't remember. Okay. Sorry, give me a minute. Let me find it. This is why you should have your law by your hand so you can get to it at any time. Aha, chapter 5, the legislature. So basically, the law says the Constitution says the National Assembly shall have powers to make laws for the good governance of Nigeria. Yeah. And it is also the Constitution that says the judiciary has the right to listen to disputes, even electoral disputes, and provides the timelines in which these disputes will be resolved. So the Constitution is the #1 document when you are talking about the election legal framework, because it sets the foundation for all the others that come after it. Yeah. And it is in that same Constitution where the Constitution gives itself powers and says any other law that clashes with the Constitution, to the extent of that clash, that law is void. So where the Constitution says, aha, there's also one thing that the Constitution provides that I didn't say. It provides for the qualifications, yeah, of every person that for every office in Nigeria. So it provides for qualification for president. Says a person contesting for president has to be 35 years old, has to have at least school leaving certificate, blah, 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 blah. Says the same for governor, says the same for Senate, for what they call it, for House of Reps and then State House of Assembly. Yeah. So when you look at all this, when the Constitution gives itself power and says every other law that clashes, any provision of any other law that clashes with me, yeah, it becomes void. So it means that if the National Assembly decides today that, okay, we want to ensure that all presidents in Nigeria have a PhD, and then they decide that, okay, they'll go to the Electoral Act and put that provision, guess what? All anyone needs to go to court is go and say, okay, court, interpret this section of the Constitution and the Electoral Act vis-a-vis the Electoral Act. And then the court will declare that section of the Electoral Act null and void. There's no such provision in the Electoral Act. In fact, even the Electoral Act itself, I can't remember the section, but one of the sections on qualifications of candidates and nomination of candidates, it says that anything that no political party can create additional qualifications that were not created by the Constitution. Yeah, so that is how powerful our Constitution is. Even though we like to think that it is a suggestion, it is not. Anyway, the next law we will look at is the Electoral Act, and the latest version of the Electoral Act is the one that we passed in 2022 by the National Assembly. And the Electoral Act basically breaks down what the Constitution has already provided. Excuse me. So if the Constitution says that INEC has the powers to register political parties, the Electoral Act will just break it down. Okay, this power, political parties will submit this, they'll submit that, they'll submit this to INEC, and yeah, that's about it. Yeah. So the Electoral Act basically breaks down provisions of the Constitution. But remember, I said that even in doing so, the Electoral Act has to be careful not to infringe on the Constitution, because any provision of the Electoral Act that does this, it becomes null and void. And because the Electoral Act being law also, you cannot put everything in a law. Lawyers know this, yeah. And people that are versed in legislative drafting, you can't put every single process in a law. That is why from the beginning, the makers of the Constitution know this, that you cannot put everything in a law. Because if you have to put everything in the Constitution or in the Electoral Act, we'll probably be carrying it in a wheelbarrow to go to court or to go to school with. Yeah. So because of that, the Constitution grants INEC powers to make regulations. And from these powers that INEC has to make regulations, it makes regulations for diverse things, regulations for the conduct of elections, regulations for registration of political parties, registration for participation of persons with disability, and all that. Now, remember I said that the Constitution is very jealous. Yeah. It's a hierarchy. So you have the Constitution as the apex, you have the Electoral Act, and then you have INEC regulations. Now, even INEC regulations has to be careful not to infringe on the other two that are above it, yeah? So where INEC is making regulations for the conduct of elections or for registration of political parties, it has to be careful not to impute what the Electoral Act didn't provide. And even if it is imputing, it has to do it within the boundaries of the Electoral Act and then above by the Constitution. So I hope I didn't become too technical. I apologize. You have time to ask questions. Now that you've understood that, okay, there are laws, yeah, that guide these things. Okay, so let's go to collation. now you now understand that, okay, that's why elections have different stages. That's why you don't just come on election day and just say, okay, where are the results? No, there's a process. You have to vote first. When you vote, then the results are tabulated. And then when they are tabulated at the polling unit, they are announced. You know who won in your polling unit. And then they are transmitted to the next level so they can be collated. And that's basically what collation of results is. It's not rocket science. It's basically the tabulation of votes that are cast on an election at an election. And because we have different elections, there are different levels of collation for each election. And for me, I always say this in every of my class here. I feel like collation is the most important part of election. Not as if other parts are not important. But we've seen a situation whereby voting went on fine. Everybody was happy, They saw the result at their polling unit, and then the next thing, it started going through collation, and then everybody started getting angry. Yeah. And it is because where you do not manage collation properly, it can compromise the whole process. Even if your voting was perfect, it will compromise it. It will give it credibility issues. And I think that's one of the problems we had in 2023. And as we go on, you see why I say so. In Nigeria, collation is manual. Please don't forget this. For now, collation is manual. It is not electronic. We do not have electronic collation. The law says INEC should decide on the method it wants to use for collation and for transmission. And INEC for now has decided that, okay, we'll carry paper from one stage to the other until the final stage. Yeah. Now, what are the levels of collation? Like I said earlier on, there are different levels of collation because there are different elections. We have local government elections. We have elections into State House of Assembly. We have National Assembly, which is divided into House of Reps and Senate. And then we have governorship, and then we have presidential elections. So in each of these elections, there are different levels of collation. For the basic, which is the councillorship, I think councillorship election is the lowest level of elections in Nigeria, where we vote in councillors, into office. Those are the legislative arm of the local government. Yeah. So in such an election, let me use the FCT area councils election as an example. In such an election, the level of the lowest level of collation is because councillors represent wards in a local government, yeah. So their collation does not go above the ward level. So where everybody votes at the polling units, you go to the ward level and then you collate and tabulate all the results of the polling units on that ward. You tabulate it and then you calculate. The winner is announced and returned at that level. It doesn't go above that. Now, in a local government election, you know that it is councillor and chairman. Yeah, the chairman is the executive of the local government. At that level, if it is for chairmanship, from that ward level where you collated councillorship, there's one step further, which is the local government area level. So you take all the results from all the wards or registration area under that local government, you take it to one place, and then you collate all of them, and then the winner is announced and returned. For State House of Assembly, it's basically the same process, but it doesn't stop at the local government level, especially where the constituency, some State House of Assembly constituencies have two local governments under it. Same thing with reps and same thing with Senate. So for State House of Assembly, it doesn't stop at the local government level. Where it is two local governments that make up the state constituency, from the local government area, you move it to the next level, and then you collate, you announce the winner and return the winner. The same thing for reps and the same thing for Senate. From local government, you take it to the next level where you collate all the results from all the local governments that make up the state constituency or the federal constituency or the Senate, and you end it there. Now, I think a lot of us have seen how governorship and presidential elections results are collated. If you've done elections for once, if you were very active in elections, you will have known this. For governorship election, collation starts at the RA level, that's the ward level, where you bring all results from PU, you take it to the RA, it is collated. Then you take all the results from the RA to the local government. Yeah, you collate it. Then all results from all the local governments now go to the state level where they are collated for governor, and then the winner is announced and returned. Now, if it were presidential election, it doesn't stop at the same state level. Yeah, it's the same process from the polling unit to the RA, to the local government, to the state. But you have one more step that is at the national level for presidential elections. And I'm sure, I don't think there's anyone in this class that has not watched that thing on channels. Is there anyone that's never watched presidential election collation? Please, I want to see your hand. If there's anybody like that in this class. Okay. I knew there won't be anybody. Are you serious? Who? Ah, 2 people. Can I ask why? Are you below 18? Just tell me why in the chat box. Are you below 18, or you've never really been interested? You don't think it's important to be involved? I really would like to know. If you can share, just share with me in the chat box. I really want to know why. Or when we are done during questions, please kindly unmute and tell me why. Anyway, so these are basically the levels of collation. It's very straightforward. No, on paper, it is very, very straightforward until you go into the field, and it gets a bit complicated. Wow. Woo. You just decided. I'm glad you're in this class, because it's not going to happen again. Next election, I'm sure you'll be in front to watch how collation is going, hopefully. So we've talked about collation. Now, we've been talking about collation, and one thing is clear, that it's a very sensitive process in the electoral on elections day. And because it is very sensitive, it's not every person that is allowed, into a collation center. So while polling units are basically very free for all registered voters here to come out and vote, not the same with collation centers. So because imagine 500 people entering one collation center, anything can happen. Yeah, that's why the whole point of the IREV, the INEC election viewing portal, was so that citizens who have voted can follow up on their results. Yeah, you upload the result, they'll confirm, okay, yes, this is correct. That was the whole point of IREV, yeah, so that everybody will see what is actually happening. Yeah. So persons allowed into a collation center. Of course, INEC officials on election duty, very important. They're one of the major people allowed into an election, a collation center. You also have security agents on election duty. Then you have the candidates or their accredited agents. Those are the categories of people allowed. Now, INEC asks, what they call it, um, um, agents to political parties to nominate agents way before election. Yeah. So those are some of the people allowed. Then you also have accredited media and then accredited observers, whether domestic and foreign. For the Anambra elections, I'm sure you've seen the press release from INEC, the number of journalists they've accredited, the number of observers they've accredited, and all that, that will now go into the field to ensure that the process is transparent. Yeah, so in 2023, INEC made use of a number of innovations, really, and I think we can skip that. Now, what are the challenges with collation? Like every part of our electoral process, there are challenges. And like I said earlier on, sometimes when the challenges overwhelm the process, that's when you start having problems with the integrity of the process. Sorry, guys. It's okay. You start having problems with the integrity of the process. So what are some of the challenges? I'm going to just merge. Well, a lot of these challenges actually overlap each other. Like you can't, when you talk about election personnel that are challenged, you know that it has to do with election malpractice. Yeah. And sometimes malpractices happen because there is interference by some stakeholders, e.g., political parties or candidates or even observers. Yeah. So election personnel, basically maybe changing results from what was left at the polling units, they change it to something different on different levels of collation. Yeah. Or even when the personnel are not even properly trained. So sometimes it's not election malpractice. It is just incompetence. And the competence is not the bad kind of competence. It's just that the person doesn't know. Yeah. Some of us have a problem with maths calculation. A lot of I'm even one of those people. I'm terrible with maths. Yeah. Even though INEC provides calculators for every polling unit, but there are still some people with coconut head that want to do it by themselves because they think they know. There's a reason those tools are provided. So sometimes it's just pure incompetence, or the person is filling in the results sheet and then the person makes a mistake. It could also be a mistake. So that's why if you are doing this kind of work, if ever you're a collation officer, please cross-check and check and check. You are not rushing everywhere. Don't rush. Take your time and do the work so that there's no cancellation on the result sheets and all of that. In fact, best practice is you take out one of the result sheets comes in different, like almost more than 20 pages duplicate. Take out the last page and do all your calculations, all your mistakes, cancel, do everything. Make sure it's good before you now transfer to the proper page on the result sheets. Then we talked about interference. It could be interference from political parties. It could be interference from observers. There are some observers that will not allow the process, and they are just supposed to observe, but they want to interfere with the process. Yeah, and this is because some observers are actually politically aligned. I've seen a situation whereby we met an observer in the field, and then when the polls closed during collation, he transformed from an observer to a party agent. Honestly, I was shocked. In fact, later on, he was the local government chairman of one of the political parties. It was so shocking when I saw him at the collation center now acting as an observer. sorry, as a party agent slash party chairman. Then technologies. I know that we all like technology. Everybody's talking about it. They say, why can't we have electronic voting? Why can't we vote online? Why can't we sit down in our house and vote? Why can't we do electronic transmission? Yeah, it's usually very sexy to talk about electronic technology and all that. But when you're using technology in elections, it has to be the appropriate technology. And then you have to train the people using the technology effectively. Because if you tell what to call them, poll officials that, oh, okay, snap the picture of the result sheet and upload. And then you see some of them uploading their selfie or uploading buckets or uploading. Honestly, you need to, if you want to laugh, go on the IREF portal and start opening results. You'll be seeing wonders. Some people upload their face. Some people upload the food they are eating. I mean, so this is because it's a new technology and people have not been effectively trained on it. Yeah. So that is also very important. And then one of the challenges also is because oversight functions of INEC. Nigeria, we have I think 107 something thousand polling units. Imagine the number of collation centers. How many INEC staff do we have? Yeah. And INEC has to oversight each of those processes on election day. So the oversight this thing is very weak. And it is because political parties and party agents don't really do their work. If they were doing their work, it becomes easier for INEC. Yeah. I remember a time that I went for election somewhere and I saw a particular, all the political parties agreed that they will give one candidate all the votes. And I'm like, how? Political parties posted agents to come and monitor the votes, and then you come in as an agent and you decide, oh, okay, I collected money. All of us, let's give this person. It was weird, but this happens, and because INEC is not everywhere on election day, it becomes problematic. So that is for collation of results. Remember that results are transmitted manually from one stage to the other using the form EC8 series, EC8 A, B, and above. Yeah, you carry it from one place to the other, they collate on new result sheets, they carry it to the next stage until the results are announced and a winner is declared. Now, the course outline says I'm supposed to talk on post-election activities. What are post-election activities? Basically, those things that happen after a winner has been returned and announced. And there are two things I want to focus on here. Issuing of the certificate of return, which is meant to be done within 14 days, according to the Electoral Act, and also election petitions. So the law says that INEC should issue a certificate of return within 14 days of a candidate having been declared and returned as winner. So INEC makes the certificate. It's basically, I mean, when you win something, they should give you certificate now. You get. So that's basically what that law is. That certificate that shows that, okay, I won this election. You know, there was one time mistakenly sent somebody that came second. God, came second. Message that you should come and collect the certificate. God, that almost caused problem, Sha. Anyway, let's move on. Election petitions. Oh, okay. Every lawyer knows that this happens. That's when some lawyers usually used to chop very well. So what are election petitions? Election petitions are the only way you can challenge an election result. Yeah. So you cannot challenge an election result by telling the person that people should meet on the street and fight. The law does not allow it. Yeah. The law does not allow you to carry, okay, when you've lost an election, you say, okay, let me go to Federal High Court and go and sue INEC for this election. No. The law says there are special tribunals set up to hear disputes that arise out of an election. And election petitions, you can't file an election petition before results are announced. Maybe a day before election, let me go and file petition because I know I'm going to lose this election. No, you have to wait until the results have been declared. So even on election day or 2 days after election, if they are still holding elections in some places, maybe you contested for governor and the election is inconclusive, you cannot start counting from then. No, you start counting from when INEC says this person has been, because the person has scored the highest votes and all those 2/3 majority of whatever, that the person has been declared the winner and returned. That's when your 21 days start counting. The law basically says from then you have 21 days to file a petition before the tribunal set up for that. And for presidential elections, the Court of Appeal is the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Did you people follow this one or not? Because now that I now heard that some of you do not used to follow collation of results, it's possible that some of you did not follow PEPT during the last election. For governorship elections, you have the governorship election tribunals. All these tribunals are set up under the Constitution. So if you have your Constitution, you can check Section 285, read it up. It provides, for all of that. The National Assembly and State House of Assembly elections also have their own tribunals. Now, you have to file, like I said earlier on, petitions are to be filed within 21 days, according to Section 285 of the Constitution. And then, all the tribunals have different composition. Some have one chairman and 4 members. Some have a chairman and 2 members, and all that. I think for the Court of Appeal, when they are sitting in that jurisdiction to hear presidential elections, I think it's 5. Yeah, it's 5. For the Supreme Court, when they are hearing, I think it's 7. Yeah. God, my brain. Yeah, I think it's 7. So for tribunals, when you file after 21 days, the tribunals have 180 days to deliver judgment. Like, they have to deliver judgment within that 180 days. Like I said, just go to that Section 285, read it up. You see everything on election petitions. And then appeals from the election tribunals will be heard within 60 days. So where a governorship candidate does not win at the governorship election tribunal, they can appeal to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal has 60 days to hear that appeal and give judgment. And if they don't feel like, okay, I still never win, they can also go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has 60 days. Same thing for the Presidential Election Tribunal. The person that has a problem, once the PEPT gives judgment and you don't like it, you can go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has 60 days. The Supreme Court is the final court for governorship and presidential election tribunals, while the Court of Appeal is the final court for National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly. Yeah, so that's basically, oh, I'm done. My slides have run out. And then we have a thing, there's the argument that election we should include alternative dispute resolution, ADR, in our election dispute that it will probably help the process, and all that, but it's still not very clear. It's not something that we've actively followed up, and all that. So probably maybe in one of these amendments, we'll probably look into getting ADR as a method. But for now, the only way to resolve election disputes is through the courts, through the election petition route. For pre-election disputes, you have the normal courts, the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court hears those disputes. But since we are talking about post-election, the only way to challenge the results of an election is through the election petition route. I think that's about it. So I think I'll stop sharing and then open the floor for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. This is always insightful and engaging and educating, because I can see from our chats we have a lot of people asking yes and concurring to a lot of things said. So we are going to take questions and answers. So if you have questions, please raise your hands or put your question in the chat box. Okay, we have Sylvester. I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. First, my name is Sylvester. I'm from APC. Thanks so much. So my own is that is because this is a very important topic or a very important lecture. And there are so many a lot of should I say clauses in our electoral acts and the regulations. You know that like these collations centers of a thing. Number one, it's supposed to have been scrap out. You cannot start collating election results from polling units down to the local government level, move to the state, now see move to the national level without the election result being tempered. So that being said, so as a concerned citizen, how do we pressure that these things should be dropped? And also, whenever we're talking about electronic, we talk about people say there is a way that they can hack. Now they can conduct election on blockchain, and the money that was budgeted for that last election for INEC was about 300 and something billion naira. Meanwhile, 100 billion naira can solve this problem of collating election results and all these things, and taking election materials to respective polling units across the 176,000 polling units across Nigeria. So it will save us costs, and at the end of the day, we will also avoid election manipulation and election results and mutilation. So as a concerned citizen, how do we pressure? How do we come in? What can we do that we can make sure that all pressure National Assembly to see how they can look into these things and make sure that they implement it? Because this is where they are benefiting from, and that is why the country is going the way it is going. Because you know that at the end of the day, they will still manipulate the election and go and go into the office and do whatsoever they like. So how do we partake? How do we make sure that these things are looked into and these clauses are being trashed out? Thank you.
Okay. I think the best way to to ensure that the process is credible is that you engage the process. Yeah. There was something your ED posted. Your ED and I had a conversation, and he said, and we concluded that Nigerians prefer sitting down to complain than to engage the process. So why do I say so? We have there's an ongoing this thing for review of the Electoral Act. It's been going on for like 2 years since after the last election it started. Yeah. And one of the things that, guess when they are going to vote? By first week of December, they should be voting on, on the new Electoral Act. First week of December. How many of you are aware that this is actually happening? Have you seen the proposed bill? Do you know what is inside the proposed bill? Have you followed up? Do you understand? We only wait for when it actually becomes law. Then we want to engage, but it doesn't happen like that. So the way to engage is to follow up on the way the law is being made. Because when it becomes law, the only thing that you can do is to um is to go is to go to court. And by then, a lot of us are not even interested in going to court because, I mean, people will say, how does it affect us in the long run? It's politicians, they should do their thing. So what I'm trying to say is that we must engage the process. That's the only way to change the process. If you don't engage the process, it will not change. Yeah. So we need to always have that at the back of our minds that if you don't engage the process does not change. Follow up on how um follow up on how elections are being the legal framework is being adjusted, amended, or even if I think the National Assembly is saying that we're even going to get a new this thing altogether. Yeah, so you need to follow up the process and then engage that way. If not, I don't know. I don't know if there's any other way you can actually change that process. So that's my answer at this point. You have to follow up the process and engage the process. Anything below that, we are basically just allowing things to continue happening over and over and over again. That's it. Thank you. Next, who has another question,
Thank you, ma'am.
please?
Sylvester, I believe
Yeah.
your question was answered. All right, Ibrahim Umar, I'll ask you to unmute and ask a question.
Okay.
Yes, it was
Good
answered.
evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Mayango. Nice presentation and nice meeting you again. I think over the week we meet at Syria Reservoir Center where you drive us well in one of the breakout sessions. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Oh,
My
we met
question
earlier
is,
in the sorry, you said we met earlier in the week?
yeah, at Accountability Lab
Oh,
where Syria Reservoir
accountability.
Center.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm part of the breakout session that you
Oh,
and
okay.
one, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I saw
nice
you
to
there.
meet
You
you.
drive us well. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done. So my question is regarding the agent, party
Okay.
agent, and the accredited observers. My first question from the accredited observers is how INEC is, what are the process, or sorry, or how INEC the process INEC take to make an observer to be accredited and part of the INEC to be an observer. That's my first question. Then my second question regarding where we had an issue of you said an observer have matured to a level of being a party agent from observing, and later on you see in the polling unit he have become an agent of a political party. We got such problems in various of our political polling units. So my own question on that is how
I'm listening. Okay.
can we how can we tackle that scenario in terms of a party, an observer will sign as an observer in some of the election results being collected. And later in the collation center, you discover that he is a party agent trying to defend a specific political party. Then lastly is we had many issues in the collection centers, like people that are being mandated to be there, they will allow them, but some that they are not supposed to be there, they will be there. So these are my questions.
Okay then. So on how you can become an observer. Usually observers are civil society groups, that is NGOs that are registered in Nigeria. So INEC will call for application. It's usually done online. Accreditation, you apply to be accredited, and then INEC shortlists. When INEC shortlists, then you collect a PIN and you go back to the portal and you upload the list of people you want to send into the field. So they can be with their passport photographs and all that. This will be used to basically provide an ID card, with the person's face and all of that on it. So that's how INEC accredits observers. As for people acting, honestly, I think unless there's a clear law that says if you are an observer, you cannot be a political party agent. I don't think right off my head, there is no law such as that. Yeah, apart from the moral issue of it all, which okay, you know that this person is a party, is a politician and is observing the process and may interfere, but it's just the optics that is wrong. Yeah, there's really no legal issue with it. So it just threw me off the day it happened that, oh, okay, this person that we've been with since morning is actually a party agent. Yeah, so there's no legal issue with it. It's just a matter of optics and probably a moral issue. Yeah. So unless the law actually forbids it, sadly, it will keep happening. That's the sad part. And then as for the last part about people that get into collation center, honestly, that the collation officer, the security agencies, and then are meant to um what they call it, to provide for that. They are meant to be the ones screening those who are coming into the collation center that have no business with it. I remember sometime, I think about 4 years ago, in Anambra, I think. I can't remember now. And we were there at the collation, and then a lot of people started entering. And I had a problem with it because I was monitoring the process for INEC. But because we're in the middle of the bush, in a place that I didn't know, like, there was nothing I could do. Yeah, because even the collation officer made it look like I was overdoing when I said, sir, these people are too many. They shouldn't be here. Yeah. Made it look like, okay, you are overdoing this. You need to calm down. So these are some of the issues. While on paper, we have all these rules. Sometimes in an election situation, all the rules are dumped, and then people do what they have to do, probably to survive, or all that. So these are some of the ideal is that security agencies and the collation officer himself implements the rule. But I think in majority of places, the rules are being implemented. It's just some of those weird instances that you see that people are being allowed, all kinds of people are being allowed into the collation center. I hope I've been able to answer your questions.
Yeah. Thank you. But is there any requirement for the election observers? Sorry.
Oh, just be a civil society that is registered in Nigeria, and then
Okay.
sometimes they want to see how much work you've done in the past, especially in the electoral process. Yeah. So
Okay.
especially for new groups, you have to show that okay, you've been doing some work in elections. Yeah. Then for older groups, just what you've done in the last election usually is suffices. And of course, have connection.
Thank you very much, ma. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Ogene Adini, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
My
Good evening.
question is, good evening. My question is, due to the previous election that was being conducted in my area, because I stayed in Lagos, Product to be precise, I have saw some unlawful thing that is being done to voters. Like for instance, like a set of I know to mention party, a set of party will be restricting other people that want to vote against them. So what is INEC duty on that aspect?
On attack of
Yes, they can send thugs, and some funny enough is that sometimes there will be police officer there and nothing will be done and the people will be maltreated, nothing like that. A good example of that is that even me, I was recently I wanted to get my voters card because I've never voted. And somebody, when I know somebody who could help me with that, the person was making a statement that if I can't vote for this particular set of party, that he will not do it for me, that I should go and do it elsewhere. So sometimes it is, and if you want to follow the right process, it is frustrating and all of that. So I believe INEC, there should be what is the solution to that?
INEC. How do I put this now so you don't misunderstand me? The role of INEC does not have a police force. Yeah. INEC does not have an army. Yeah. The INEC chairman is not the commander-in-chief of the armed forces or the IGP of police. INEC's work is to administer elections and to organize elections. And that is it. The work of election security is majorly on the Nigerian police force. And the Nigerian police force answers to the president. So I want us to situate that, to contextualize it. And because of that, there's really nothing INEC can do except to prosecute those who fall short. And INEC has said that it really cannot prosecute people like that because it does not have the manpower. Yeah, to prosecute. So that's why we now go back to what reforms can we do to ensure that those who break the law, those who attack, because there are electoral offenses, there in our electoral act that says you cannot attack a person on election day, you cannot stop a person from voting, you cannot sell your vote, all this. You cannot stop a person from registering as a voter. All these are electoral offenses. And at present, INEC is the one that is supposed to prosecute electoral offenses. But INEC says it doesn't have the manpower. So it takes us back to how do we make our election offenses more effective? We take it out from INEC, give another agency, create a new agency to prosecute electoral offenses. So that agency will now be like the EFCC that can arrest on election day, you arrest those who mess up on election day, and then you prosecute them. I think that's the only way we can actually ensure that all these people that like threatening people up and down on election day, can actually face the law. But yeah, the best INEC can do on it is to actually prosecute. And to the best of my knowledge, that becomes very difficult because when the police arrest a person on it, most of the police that are deployed, some of them are not even usually within that state. So they deploy you to come and work in elections. You finish work, you've arrested somebody, then the police is meant to be the witness. The police probably worked in Lagos and the person's original posting is in Kano, and the person goes after elections. How do you get the person to even come and give, you know? But if you have a body that does it, the body will probably have um, offices in all 36 states. And so when their officers arrest the person, they can charge them to court and prosecute effectively. So these are some of the things we need to take into consideration about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ambassador John Samuel, you can unmute and ask your question.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. You're low. Please, can you speak out loud?
Now.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
can hear you. Can go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much for this insightful thoughts. Mine is more like a contribution, not a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
All right. I am privileged to work as a presiding officer twice in one of these our elections. One in FCT, the FCT election 2022, and the general election 2023. Now, one of my advice is, because in the general election, I was not the presiding officer. And one of the things I observed happened is that so many polling unit votes were not recorded. Why do I say so? This INEC ad hoc staff will come from Friday till some Monday morning. And some of them, just because they have not done it before and just because they wanted doing it maybe for the pay, and the pay is not really there, and they will end up just packing everything and go without even submitting their results to the collation officer at their rack center. Now, my own contribution is, in as much as some of us will one day or are in a political party, for the right thing to be done, I'm just advising that if you are a party agent or an observer, please try and go to the collation center as long as you are accredited and you are permitted to be there. Because most of the things we are seeing are not really happening. It is because from the beginning, from the polling unit side, people are not recording the results. And that is why I love what ED used to say. Don't just assume the rig election. Because most of the things we do is we assume the rig election, but not knowing that there are some things that we do not follow up. And it is one of those things that makes ED used to say this, that the most marginalized people in Nigeria are Nigerians. And it is because we are not really doing our work as observers, as party agents. So my advice is, please and please, let us follow up the results, because that is the genesis of what we watch when they are declaring results. Thank you very much, ma. God bless ED. God bless you, ma. God bless all the team. And God bless the Electoral College Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. You've spoken well. Any other person? Any other questions, please? Chalia. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm still in class. I'm still in class. Any other question? I think Chalia is
Hello?
having.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm back. Sorry. We
Okay.
have Esther.
Any other question?
Yes,
Okay.
Esther,
Esther,
I've asked you
please
to unmute.
unmute and take it.
Okay, good evening, ma. Thank you for your class, ma. So the thing I want to ask is, how do we tackle the fact that other parties sell their vote to like another party, and then these things are like very obvious because there was I stay in Kaduna, and then there was one incident that happened like that made this thing very obvious that they sold their vote to another party so that that party can come into power. And then for the fact that everybody in that polling unit were bribed, so everybody just collected the money. Is that you collect the money or they throw you out? So that's how it works. So how do we tackle and what measures are put in place to actually curb this kind of thing? Thing will be sorted out like it ought to. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think the same way we tackle the issue of election violence is how we tackle the issue of vote buying or vote trading, by prosecuting those who break the law. It's a legal issue, and the only way it's an offense. It's an electoral offense. The only way to tackle it is to prosecute offenders. And like I said, it's very difficult for INEC to prosecute offenders. So we should be thinking about setting up a new body to do that work. Because if we are going to keep waiting for INEC, I was in INEC for 10 years, and there were a lot of electoral offenses, but I never went to court even for once because of all the issues around it. Yeah, so it's the same thing. We need to find a way to make INEC more effectively in handling them, or we find another agency that does it, just like the EFCC. The EFCC has powers to arrest, they can arrest, and then they prosecute. So we should have an agency, unless we want to make the EFCC, give the EFCC those powers to do that, but we should have an agency that, that should focus on electoral offenses by itself. And that's the only way, honestly, to change that behavior in the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, I believe your question was answered. So Adejumo Samson, I've asked you to unmute and ask a question.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you
Good
so much
evening.
thank you so much for the section. I think we were discussing earlier about
Sorry, I
people
can't hear you. There's some interruption.
Okay, can you hear me, ma?
Yeah, I can hear you. No.
Okay, ma. So, thank you very much, ma. So, we are saying earlier about INEC accreditations and observer turning to party chairperson and all. And basically, when you said that, something came to my mind, basically, so and I feel like sharing it.
Okay.
Because I've been observing election, because I have a polling unit in front of my house. And over
Okay.
the years, I've always observed all the elections. But I just, beside observing, I decided to participate more in this 2023. And one thing especially happens during the gubernatorial election in my state. INEC has BOVAS and we have IRF, for which we can be monitoring the votes, which at some point is not really working for the presidential election like that. People couldn't monitor the vote as INEC promised. And one thing I noticed that happened in my state is that the incumbent party created something similar to INEC, which they are using to coordinate their own party agent, and they're uploading it at the real time. That even at the long run, before INEC even release the official results, we already know how many local governments the incumbent party won. And I was thrilled because the way it happened is that at the polling with which I voted, after the collation of the results and everything, all each party agents must sign. And after they signed, and the INEC official uploaded it on Beavers, and every other thing. And that went on that all the polling units met at the local government house, and as you said earlier. And one thing that kept me wondering is that it was so accurate for me in our state that we are able to, the party was able to gather their own results independent of INEC, because as each polling unit were, for example, let's say in my polling unit, you have like 12 wards, and each ward, like, let's say, have like 20 polling units. And each polling unit had a party agent. Immediately, each party agent is reporting to the head of the ward party agent, and they are giving an accurate result directly to the ward, the way they are transmitting, and we're able to gather a very accurate result without even being tampered with. And I just wondered that if that could happen at the state level, and we're able to achieve it, and there was like, out of like 33 local governments, the incumbent party won 30 local governments. And that was something that had never happened before. And I believe that because we're able to probably stay on the voting process by also giving a mirroring IRF, because they also create an IRF. People can just press on it. You can see the way the state voting is going, and it's not INEC voting. First question I have is that, is even that or probably official for the state, for let's say for the party to do that, to create their own IRF, regardless what INEC had for us initially, because that's what they did. They just mirror it, and you can just go online. You'll be seeing where the votings are going. And after the declaration, from official declaration, nothing changed because they actually have monitored it from their own end. And that for me seems like, wow, this can really up. So the question that I was having in my head that, okay, where does really happens, and where does it really happen? I feel like it happens from the answer to when I have that question is that it happens from the party agent collaborating with INEC official, because there are some stuff that happened in our case. Because one of them happens like overvoting, because the number of accredited voters and the number of votes after counting, like you have like, let's say you have like 200 accredited voters, and you're having like 201.
Okay, can you round up your question, because there are a lot of people and time is going. So what's your question?
So question is that for the state that mirror INEC IRF, is it legal? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, it is legal. That's the whole point of sending party agents into the field, yeah? So you can have eyes on the ground. There's nothing illegal about it. Politicians know when they lose election and when they win election. That's the truth. Especially big political parties, because they have agents. And their agents will have sent their copy of the result sheet, because all political parties are expected to have a copy of the result sheet at every level of collation. Let me give you an example. That is why in other democracies, in other countries, you find that people concede elections, yeah, because they know what they scored. They know what they scored at every level, except you did not deploy party agents to every level of to every polling unit. But if you do, as a large political party, you will know that you won or lost election. So it's allowed under the law. Every political party, usually they have their situation rooms where they get all these things from. The problem is if they try to force that one as the official result, that's the problem. But they are allowed to do that for their own this thing. In Ghana, the incumbent vice president that lost the election last year, before their EC started collation, he had called and the guy that won and congratulated him because he already knew that he had lost. So that's just it.
Okay, thank you very much. Collins, I've asked you to unmute and ask a question.
Okay, thank you so much, Shyla. Good evening,
we can,
ma'am. Thank you so much for
answer everyone because I can see that we have like 4 people, Can we make our question, like take just 1 minute each and ask your question, please? Thank you.
Okay, I'll try. So first
Don't
of all,
try, do.
Okay, ma'am. So first of all, I don't think Nigerians are lazy. Nigerians are very passionate people when it comes to elections and leadership. I'm in my mid-30s, and I've witnessed some elections in my lifetime, especially from my adult age. And I'd say that like the last elections we had in 2023, people really came out, in my own opinion. There was
Okay.
and but there's this notion of whatever will be, who will enter, whoever will, so it looks as if it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter whether you come out to vote or not. If it will be rigged, it will be rigged. The person that will win at the end and you discover that somehow it turns out to always be like that. So I think that's a problem, voters apathy. So I really do not know if you have a recommendation on how we can solve that. That's my number 1 question. Number 2, our electoral system looks so good on paper, right? You look at the processes, you're talking about collation, but of course we know that what happens on ground is different from what happens on paper. And then I begin to ask myself, is it that, for example, now, in your own opinion, which country do you think is getting it right when it comes to election? What are they doing, especially when it comes to I know that we have our own, like some of these things you are talking about, intimidation, people become voters by blah, blah, blah. People enter the security structure for the INEC and all that, but aren't there countries who have faced wars and come out and have,
Your
they
1
got it
minute
right
has passed though.
That's why I said I'll try, because my hands has been up since when network keep throwing me out. I would have asked mine. Says, okay, let me stop here. I still have like 2 more, but let me stop here because of my time is up.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So first things first, you cannot assume that elections will be flawed. Oh no. First of all, you said a lot of people came out to vote. In which election, please?
Yes, in my own opinion. Okay.
In your own opinion, your opinion is not data. Your opinion is not data.
No,
do you know how many people voted in 2023? 27% of registered voters, not even up to 30%. Those are the people that came out to vote on election day. So when you said plenty people came out, I don't know where, because they did not. They just made noise online as usual and then sat down in their houses, hoping that others will do the job for them. They don't really have to come out. In fact, some did not even register. So when we say, when we assume that elections will be flawed, so there is no need to come out, that is when you're actually giving the avenue for it to be flawed. Because whether you like it or not, every single registered voter in Nigeria has a ballot to their name. All 90-something million of us, we all have a ballot to our name. So when you let that ballot, you let it, all of you decide, okay, it will be rigged anyway. So let me just stay in my house and drink beer and eat pepper soup on election day. After all, is a work-free day. Let me just chill and watch movies. What do you think will happen to the ballot? The people who come out and who need it more will use it. That's that simple. So you cannot assume that elections have been rigged when you did not even come out to go and use your own ballot. It's that simple. You delegate your basic duty as a citizen to another person to do. And then when the person does it, you come out and say, oh, okay, they are always rigging elections. Come on. I think we need to stop doing that. What was your second question again? Collins? Okay.
Okay, he seems he's muted. Okay, he's off the call.
Okay. Who else has a question?
Prosper. Okay, Prosper. I'll ask you to unmute.
Prosper, 1 minute.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So the question I want to ask, I actually came in network kept throwing me out. So I came in when our facilitator said that INEC does not have the manpower to prosecute election offense. I get that right. So the question I want to ask, what is the job of INEC if it is true that they don't have the manpower or the capacity to do that? So why create another agency? Can there not be a law that will mandate them to do that and then give them the necessary support instead of creating another agency? That's the question I want to ask. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. You were not in class, so you didn't hear me say that INEC does not have a police force. So because it does not have a police force, or it depends on the Nigerian police basically to arrest people that flaunt the law, and that because the Nigerian police force arrests those people, it is on election day postings are done randomly for police. The police that arrested one person may not be the one to bring them to court. So how do you prove that the person actually flaunted the law? You can't do that. Yeah. So those are some of the issues. Yes, INEC, you can decide to. You ask, what does INEC do? Well, it conducts elections, it registers political parties, it monitors the activities of political parties, it registers candidates. There are a lot of things that INEC does. Yeah. The point is, INEC doesn't have the manpower. We have how many polling units in Nigeria? 107 something thousand polling units. 36 states, 774 local governments, and in each of those local governments, I'm sure somebody breaks the law on election day. So INEC legal officers, as of when I was there, were less than 150. And in addition to the fact that INEC does not have a police force, honestly, it becomes difficult. So unless we want to change the law and says, okay, there should be an arm of INEC that are investigators given the powers to arrest on election day, and then we ensure that INEC has more resources, then fine, that's fine. We won't need to create another agency. Then INEC will now have to deal with it. Thank you very much. Udo Tong, please, your question.
Okay, you can unmute.
Okay. Good evening, Ma. And
1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the great lecture. Please, I want to ask a question based on the independency of INEC and why over time they've not been independent in some actions. For instance, in a particular election, in 2019 governorship elections in my state, a night to after we had registered for RACTEC, registered to be part of the election, not observers now, the volunteers working and overseeing the election, that's presiding officer, assistant presiding officer, and all of that. A night to that day, I could see very well that because my state and I know their faces, I understand I'm related with them. I saw PDP persons coming, the negotiating and all of that. And then when the next RACTEC list came out, everybody in the RACTEC were actually upcoming members of PDP. Now I use the word upcoming because they are not contesting or their face is not all out, but they are like members of the PDP media team, members of various campaign teams in the PDP. So from the number one to the end, everybody that registered outside the platform was not picked. It was only PDP persons that were picked. And then the same thing happened for some of the polling officers, even though core members were allowed to emerge. So in such a situation, what exactly, I'm not asking how we can solve it because that's a long discussion, but what exactly is the problem? Is it because INEC do not have funds or because like what exactly leads to that issue? Thank you.
That's a very, I don't know what led to that issue because I wasn't there when the issue happened. Yeah. So it just because it happened in one place doesn't mean that's the way it happened in all states or all local governments or all that. So I cannot actually answer that question by saying, okay, this is what happened and that's why they replaced. Do you understand? But we could also tie it down to interference, political interference by politicians or whatever. But I cannot specifically tell you this is what happened in such a situation. But it all also goes back to what we said earlier on about the oversight functions of how INEC's oversight functions, especially in the field during elections, is weak because there are a lot of other issues involved. So yes, while I cannot give a specific reason why it happened the way it happened where you were, but we can also argue that it's possibly because of political interference or the weak oversight work of INEC also. Kule Lawal, you have a question.
Okay, I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, thank you so much, madam.
Oh, it's another Kule Lawal. Wow.
Yes, it's another
Okay.
Kule Lawal. Yeah, thank you
Interesting.
so much, madam, and very insightful indeed. My question is, I want to know, do you work with INEC or just on a consultancy level? I don't know. And if you do, my question is, what happened to IREF? Was it political interference or was it really technology glitches, Abi, right? Or which one was used? That was the reason that was given to us why the IREF could not be used. I just want to know your thought around this.
I don't know
Thank
what
you.
happened to okay, first of all, I think if you heard my bio from the beginning, they said that I worked with INEC and now I'm with the CJID. Yeah, so that is that. As to what happened to IREF, I don't know what happened to IREF. INEC never told anybody what happened to IREF, so I cannot answer what happened to IREF. It's something that INEC itself will have to answer, or Mahmood. So that's about that. Honestly, I cannot answer that question for INEC. We'll have to ask INEC that question.
All right, it's fine if you don't have an idea too.
I have an idea, but it's not something I'll say in public. So until INEC tells us what happened, me too, I don't know what happened.
Thank you very much, Ma. I think we've done justice to all the questions I can see.
Thank you.
And we don't
Thank
have
you
any
so
hands
much.
raised. Thank you. It's always a great pleasure having you around.
Thank you
I
so
would say
much,
I'm your
everyone.
favorite cohort.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much, ma.
much. Yeah.
All right, ma.
Okay,
So,
everyone. It was nice hanging out with you guys for almost 2 hours. Abby? Yeah, almost 2 hours.
yeah.
Now I have to go hang out with my own friends. So have a good evening.
Good evening, ma. Please,
Thank
ma,
you,
can we
ma.
have your contact?
Chalia, you can give them my
You can give
contact.
them my contact.
Okay,
Oh,
ma.
here you are.
All right.
All right.
All right, ma. Good night, everyone. See you again in class tomorrow. Bye for now.